We understand the hearing took place and that Russia extended the pre-trial detention of Evan Gershkovich by an additional 3 months. We once again call on Russia to comply with their obligation to provide consular access to him. As I discussed yesterday, on Friday, they rejected our second request for consular access to them. The claims against Evan are baseless, and we continue to call for his immediate release as well as for the immediate release of Paul Whelan. We did have representatives from the embassy in the court today. My understanding of the hearing today was that it was a hearing on whether to continue to detain him, and they extended that detention by 3 months. I believe the embassy Moscow will have a statement coming out. I thought it would be out before the briefing, but if it's not out, it'll be out in the next few minutes with any more details, but I don't have any more details from what happened inside the court. For we have been in close contact with Evan's parents since immediately after his detention. We did not help arrange their travel. I will just say personally, I can only imagine how difficult it must be to see your child detained overseas, especially to be detained wrongfully. And so I'm certainly not going to criticize any parent for wanting to see their child. But that being said, we do have a level 4 travel advisory for Russia, and just speaking generally, we do not advise that U.S. citizens travel to Russia. But we have expressed our concern from the minister level. Secretary Blinken had a conversation with Foreign Minister Lavrov about Evan Gershkovich's detention already this year. We've engaged with them at a number of levels. Our embassy in Moscow has engaged with them. We've engaged with them here. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of those conversations. As I said yesterday, we found that oftentimes when it comes to wrongful detentions, it's unproductive to the release that we seek to talk about all of the conversations we have publicly, but we have consistently pressed the case that number one, Russia needs to fulfill its consular obligations, and number two, they need to immediately release him as well as Paul Whelan. I'm not going to speak to any of the details of how we are trying to secure his release, other than to say that it is an ongoing priority for the Secretary, it is an ongoing priority for the President. And I will say that even speaking more broadly than the case of Evan Gershkovich or Paul Whelan, the wrongful detention of Americans is one of the top priorities for this department. As you are aware, we have secured the return of more than 24 wrongfully detained Americans since the beginning of this administration. It continues to be our top priority, and we'll continue to work on it with all the tools available to us. I don't want to preview any specific sanction action. I will say that, as always, we look at all the tools that are available to us, and we use them when we think they're most effective. But if you look at our record, not just with respect to wrongful detentions, but our record with respect to Moscow and Russian government officials and other Russian elites going back to more than a year now, we have not hesitated to use our sanctions authorities to go after any number of officials in that government, including the most senior officials. Sean.
Moscow, do you approve of this visit? Anything?